The promenade, the people walking, the people talking.
Hi, my name is Pallave and I'm going to be talking about structural violence. Structural violence is a concept introduced by Norwegian philosopher Johan Galtung in the 1960s. He defines it as structures that stops individuals, groups, and societies reaching their full potential, violence that is inbuilt into the structure and shows up as unequal power and consequently unequal life chances. And it's usually predicated on social injustice, where both colonialism and neoliberalism interplay. Colonialism refers to the act of establishing control over an indigenous population over a country. This is usually achieved through brute force and invasion. These countries are then referred to as colonies. For example, Sri Lanka was a colony of Britain. Neoliberalism refers to the market-orientated approach through deprivatization and austerity. In essence, all policies that are created are for profit orientation. Structural violence was further popularized by Paul Farmer, a medical anthropologist, through his various work with his non-profit organization Partners in Health in Haiti, Rwanda, Malawi, Mexico, and many other countries. Break the word structural violence down, it is structural because it's embedded in the political and economic organization of our social world through events such as colonialism, and it is violent because it causes injury to people and not necessarily those who are responsible for perpetuating such inequalities in the first place. According to Galtung, violence is the avoidable impairment of fundamental human needs, or the impairment of human life itself. So first we're going to look at Galtung's theory of violence. Galtung understood violence in three layers to understand how the confluence of factors merged in particular historical moments to shape the conditions for promotion of violence. These three types of violence are direct, structural, and cultural. Direct violence is what we normally think about, behaviors that threaten life itself or diminishes capacity to meet basic needs. These are examples such as war, sexual assault, and emotional manipulation. Structural is a systematic way in which some groups are hindered or denied equal access to opportunities, goods, or resources that will allow them to meet basic needs. This is achieved through either formal structures such as schools, legal systems, hospitals, or informal but common practices. For example, limited access to healthcare or education for marginalized groups. Cultural violence is the existence of prevailing or prominent social norms that make structural and direct violence seem correct, right, or at least acceptable, despite no scientific evidence. This is a process called reification. They function as absolute and the only truth, and it's reproduced uncritically across generations, so that we do not question why the power lies in this way. Cultural violence explains how prominent beliefs become so embedded in society and result in direct and structural violence. But what's important to realize is that all three of them are interrelated and mutually reinforce each other. And it is only by questioning cultural and structural violence critically that we will be able to move forward in tackling direct violence and in achieving peace. However, this structural violence does happen a lot closer to home, and it's worth thinking about, such as the prohibition of drugs and how it has disproportionately affected the Black population, the BAME community and higher deaths during COVID, and migrants and their access to healthcare. Through this, I've explained structural violence and how it can have an impact on our lives today. As a medical student, I believe it is important to look at the social determinants of health and why this person got this disease at this time. However, apart from just looking at the social determinants of health, it is important to question why these people are in the socioeconomic status that they're in and why we are constantly disadvantaged in a country that claims to be fair and equal.
Standing up right in front of me.